Picture someone with a PhD in astrophysics. They can literally solve math equations that would make most of our heads completely spin. But then, they get an email claiming they've just won some foreign lottery, and they wire $5,000 to a total stranger. Or, hey, think of that brilliant software engineer you work with, who absolutely cannot handle a mild disagreement in a Tuesday morning team meeting without throwing a complete tantrum. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are going to completely rethink what it actually means to be smart. For decades, we've been conditioned to view intelligence in this super rigid way, right? Standardized tests, complex math, fancy college degrees. But what if the true measure of your intellect isn't found in a quiet, sterile exam room, but in the chaotic, noisy reality of your actual daily life? Today, we're unpacking a total paradigm shift, a framework that shifts our focus away from traditional metrics and onto the subtle, everyday actions that reveal how our brains are really processing the world.
Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap. We're going to start with the intelligence reframe, move beyond the IQ score, take a hard look at daily decision-making behaviors, explore the limits of critical thinking, and finally wrap up with processing your world.
So, I really want you to sit with this question for a second. What really makes someone smart? Strip away the diplomas on the wall, ignore the impressive job titles. Think of the smartest person you know on paper. Now compare them with someone who just possesses incredible common sense and situational awareness. That person who just intuitively knows how to figure things out on the fly. Our culture absolutely loves a quick metric, a number that instantly categorizes human potential. But human brains just don't operate in a vacuum. We live in a wildly complex, unpredictable world. Our intelligence is constantly being tested, but not by multiple choice questions. It's tested by how we navigate rush hour traffic, how we resolve unexpected conflicts, and how we handle 100 tiny, annoying choices before lunchtime. If we rely entirely on those old definitions, we are totally missing the full picture of human capability.
All right, Section 1, the intelligence reframe. It is time to establish a brand new baseline. It's not about being smart on paper. It's about how you process the world day to day. Think about how incredibly powerful that distinction is. Being smart on paper is purely theoretical. Processing the world day to day, that's practical. It's exactly the difference between knowing the physics of how a bicycle works and actually being able to ride one through a busy intersection without crashing. True intelligence is a verb, guys. It's an active, ongoing engagement with your environment.
Moving right along to Section 2, beyond the IQ score. Let's look at the pieces we've been missing.
Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast. On paper, IQ scores and credentials represent this perfectly controlled artificial environment. They basically measure what you might be capable of in a perfectly optimized vacuum. But in reality, true intelligence is measured by behavioral signals and daily processing. Because real life is messy, true intellect is demonstrated by how you respond when your flight gets canceled at the absolute last minute, how you evaluate a completely sensationalized piece of news you scroll past online, or how you budget your time on an incredibly stressful Tuesday afternoon. The actual test of a mind isn't some static score it achieves once. It's the behavioral signals it continuously broadcasts out in the real world.
So we are shifting our definition of intelligence from a static noun to an active metric. Think of your brain kind of like a Wi-Fi router. Just as a router is constantly broadcasting a signal, you are constantly broadcasting your processing power through every single micro decision you make. You aren't just smart or not smart. Every single time you make a choice, you emit a signal. You show the world exactly how your mental machinery operates, revealing your practical intelligence through observable behaviors and critical thinking in real time.
Which brings us to Section 3, daily decision-making behaviors. Let's look at exactly where these signals show up in our lives.
So the crucial point here is that the source material points directly to exactly 8 common everyday habits that act as key behavioral signals. These are fundamental breakdowns in how a person processes information. Let's dive into the first 4 right now. Habit number 1 is black and white thinking. This is the complete inability to see nuance. Someone who does this views every single situation as entirely good or entirely bad, a total success or an utter failure. If a colleague makes one minor mistake, boom, they're suddenly completely incompetent. It's a really low-resolution way of viewing a high-resolution world, and it exposes a rigid lack of mental flexibility. Okay, habit number 2, refusing to update beliefs when presented with new evidence. Imagine you're in a meeting, you confidently present a strategy, and someone else pulls up real-time data proving that strategy will actually lose the company money. A highly intelligent processor says, "Wow, I didn't know that. Let's pivot." But someone exposing low intelligence, they're going to dig their heels in, get defensive, and reject the data just to protect their ego. They prioritize being right over getting it right. Habit number 3 is constant defensive reactions to feedback. Man, we all know someone like this, right? You offer a mild, constructive critique. Something like, hey, could we maybe format this report a bit differently? And they react as if you just insulted their entire family. This habit shows an inability to separate one's identity from one's work, which is a major processing error. And habit number 4 is overconfidence in areas of low competence, often called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the guy who read literally one article about macroeconomics and suddenly thinks he can debate a professor of finance. They just don't know enough about the subject to realize how much they actually don't know. These 4 habits, they aren't just quirky personality traits. They are blaring alarms, signaling a breakdown in critical thinking.
On to Section 4, Limits of Critical Thinking. Let's examine the mechanisms that are failing behind these behaviors. And this brilliantly illustrates the rest of the picture. Let's cover the remaining 4 habits and map them directly to the failures happening behind the scenes. Habit number 5 is relying entirely on emotional reasoning, which perfectly exposes limited critical thinking. This is when someone concludes that just because they feel something is true, it absolutely must be true. If they feel anxious about a project, they automatically assume the project is doomed, completely ignoring the objective reality that everything is actually right on track. Habit number 6 is focusing on short-term gratification over long-term consequences. This reveals incredibly poor daily decision-making. Think of hitting the snooze button so many times you actually miss a crucial flight, or buying something you really can't afford just for that momentary rush. It's a fundamental failure to anticipate the future state of reality. Habit number 7 is the absolute inability to see things from another person's perspective. And this strongly emphasizes why behavioral signals matter so much more than IQ scores. A person might have a literal genius-level IQ on paper, but if they lack the cognitive flexibility to understand why a customer is frustrated or why their partner is upset, well, their practical intelligence is deeply flawed. Finally, habit number 8 is blindly accepting information without verifying sources, which highlights massive failures in processing the world. In our digital age, the world throws data at us constantly nonstop. If someone routinely shares fake news articles just because the headline happened to confirm their pre-existing bias, their mental processor is simply failing to interpret reality correctly. They are absorbing information, sure, but they aren't actually processing it.
And that leads us to Section 5, Processing Your World. Let's look at the direct application of this framework to your own life.
True intelligence is defined by your everyday habits and how you process the world day to day. If you want to know how smart you really are, please don't go take an online quiz. Look at your default reactions. Are you falling into black and white thinking? Are you rejecting new evidence just because it feels uncomfortable? Look at how you process contradictory information and what decisions you default to when you are really stressed out. The quality of your daily habits is absolutely the truest reflection of the quality of your mind. It is entirely about your day-to-day processing, not about being book smart.
So look closely at your own routines. Do your daily habits signal critical thinking, or are they exposing something else? I really want to challenge you on this. For the next 24 hours, audit your own choices. Pay close attention to how you react to inconveniences or unexpected new information. Are your habits signaling a high-level critical thinker, or are you accidentally broadcasting a failure to process the world? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning how you process your world.